Thank you. This is Ghada Barsoum. I teach at the American University in Cairo at the Department of Public Policy and Administration. I presented a paper today on young people's job aspirations. I first looked at, using the data of ELMPS 2012, I first looked at what young people who are employed, where they search for jobs. And looking at the data, it was clearly showing that the government is an employer of preference for the majority of young people who are unemployed. The prevalence of searching for a job, applying directly to a specific ministry or a specific public sector entity, reached 80% among unemployed youth. And there were, the earlier assumption that only women would search for jobs in the government, but this was not the case, at least as we could tell from the data, that young men and young women queue for government jobs. And with that, I looked at two more things. I looked at if search for government work is so prevalent among young people who are unemployed, is it ever fruitful? So I looked at the employment sector of currently working youth, and to my surprise, actually, I found that the government is increasingly becoming a key employer for young people, specifically among those with above intermediate education. About 30% of jobs for this group are in the government and also in the public sector. And this is actually very telling, that the search for jobs in the government, at least to a large group of young people, is actually fruitful. And if search is fruitful and they like to search for jobs in the government, so what job characteristics do they get in the government that they do not get in the private sector? And one of the key issues that I looked at in terms of job characteristics is access to Social Security, work contracts, and social insurance. I also looked at reported levels of job satisfaction, and consistently young people who are working in jobs in the government reported higher job satisfaction compared to young people working in the private sector. And I'm not arguing with this paper and with this data that we need to offer more jobs for young people in the government. What I'm saying is that we need to address what the ILO would call decent work deficit in Egypt's private sector, which is predominantly informal, in terms of access to Social Security by policies that would seek to include young people who are excluded from Social Security schemes, by looking at job quality issues, and by policies that would allow for a larger role for new entities to provide Social Security, including cooperatives, and for regulation changes that would be more inclusive in terms of Social Security.